Top stories from around the island. To the point. Without the fluff. Puerto Rico headline news. Please subscribe and don't forget to hit the bell notification.
Hello and welcome to Puerto Rico Headline News for March 13th, 2020. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I invite you to do so you can stay up to date with any breaking news here in Puerto Rico, especially if you have family that live here, or you might live here as well and not quite understand Spanish and want to be on top of the news. So I translate breaking articles on stories that are happening here in Puerto Rico. For today, we have our first confirmed coronavirus cases in Puerto Rico. This happened as of 9 p.m., a little after 9 p.m. tonight. The El Nuevo Dia broke the news, announcing or reporting three suspected cases are now positive, confirmed to be positive, and have the coronavirus, and they're here in Puerto Rico. So let's go into the article here. It mentions that there was a 68-year-old Italian tourist who last Sunday was the first suspected case of coronavirus in Puerto Rico. Her husband as well tested positive. And then there's a story of a 71-year-old man hospitalized at Auxilio Mutuo Hospital, which at the beginning, it says here, the authorities did not want to test. And he also became one of the three first confirmed cases of the coronavirus in Puerto Rico. So now I'm going to read what the governor says regarding this. Tonight, we received the news from the CDC that the case of a 71-year-old man who was hospitalized in San Juan, who had symptoms of cough, fever, and respiratory distress, is positive for COVID-19. Likewise, a 68-year-old Italian resident whose test was processed today in the public health laboratory was also positive for COVID-19. Her husband, who's 70 years old, was performed at the CD and also came back as being positive, said Vasquez, who specified that there's still there's five other cases that were tested and came back negative. Now, it's interesting to note on these Italian tourists. It mentions here the Italian tourist arrived in San Juan on Sunday, this past Sunday at 9 a.m. aboard the Costa Luminosa cruise. Now, she was transported by private ambulance to Ashford Presbyterian Hospital, and the government did not find out about the situation. In other words, that she was showing symptoms of possibly having the coronavirus until 4:30 p.m. And this is what the Health Secretary, Rafael Rodriguez Mercado, who spent the past few days saying that this woman did not have the makings of having the coronavirus. So she's one of the cases that came back positive along with her husband. Now, on this cruise, it mentions here, in the interim, while this was happening, she was being taken to the hospital along with her husband. About 1,240 cruise passengers got off the boat, walked through Old San Juan, and some even went on to tour El Yunque rainforest. So if that wasn't bad enough, it continues to mention here that the director of the tourism company here in Puerto Rico, Carla Campos, boarded this cruise ship to give the captain a plaque, as it was the first time the ship had docked in Puerto Rico. And despite many warnings, he never wanted to be quarantined, and even participated in press conferences with Governor Wanda Vasquez. So that's pretty concerning about this situation. One of my previous videos mentions more details about this cruise ship, and how they thought that there was no way that anybody on board this ship was infected with the coronavirus. Sadly, this couple have been confirmed to have this coronavirus. So now I imagine they have to track down all those people that came into contact with this couple, and the people that they interacted with here in Old San Juan. So we'll be finding out in the next couple of days how they're going to deal with that. Now, the article continues to mention here The other case is that of a 71-year-old man, a patient of the renowned Dr. Fernando Cabanillas, who reported that in principle the health department did not want to test him because he had not been on a trip. The 70-year-old man, resident of Puerto Rico, hadn't traveled, so they did not want to test him. Now, this patient had no history of leaving the country, uh, so now they figured that he was infected by a third person who came from abroad. So now we have, I guess this is what's called a community infection. Puerto Rico resident never traveled or hadn't traveled, and now he's confirmed for having the coronavirus. So obviously they'll have to track down the contacts that he had leading up to this point. Now, the news broke out hours after the Center for Disease Control and Prevention had hinted that the Puerto Rican authorities did not properly process the samples sent to that institution. Also, this afternoon, the governor announced that the Puerto Rican government had been authorized to conduct coronavirus tests here and that there would be results in the next few hours. So, this is another story I might work on. But this morning there was a press conference, and everybody wanted to know why these results that had been apparently sent Monday morning had not been the results hadn't been done by the CDC. The governor and a few the Secretary of Health were blaming the CDC. Anyways, turns out that the tests or the tests hadn't been sent out on Monday, but in fact were sent out on Wednesday, and then they were filled out completely wrong, incomplete. In the meantime, they were trying to cover up their errors by blaming the CDC for taking so long to process these tests. So that's another interesting story uh, that I might work on. So continue on to with this report. After complying with the entire validation process to certify the public health laboratory of the Department of Health, the tests of the pending suspicious cases began immediately, said Vasquez. The laboratory here in Puerto Rico was validated to do the tests just as they are done at the CDC, said the governor, who did not specify whether tests were repeated for patients who have been waiting for their results for days or for other suspicious cases. So, in part, some good news is that Puerto Rico itself will be able to run their own tests here in Puerto Rico and will not have to send them out to the CDC and wait up to 48 hours to get a response. So that's pretty that is reassuring. The article continues to mention, although since Sunday it was reported that there was a possible case of coronavirus at Ashford Presbyterian Hospital in the Italian tourist Secretary Rodriguez Mercado reported that the result would be ready in 24 or 48 hours. Until last night, the result had not come, and that's part of the mix-up and the mistake that they themselves did here in Puerto Rico, and they were trying to blame the CDC. So what happened after that? Well, today when journalists from different media outlets asked the CDC about the delay, a spokeswoman in written statement said the goal of the CDC is to analyze and report results within 48 hours of the samples being sent in adequate conditions and with accurate documentation. We understand the concerns that uncertainty may create, and we are working diligently to process all samples as quickly as possible. So apparently, it had to do, with the way the forms were filled out and the samples were sent. It's sad to mention, but a lot of people here in Puerto Rico, high-ranking government officials, and in these very important agencies, many of them are not bilingual or they understand very little English. So I can see where they could have these forms that had to be filled out or the process that had to be followed was misunderstood. So that's most likely what could have happened in the process. Now, just to wrap up this story here, It says here, although it was generally interpreted as an insinuation that the samples from Puerto Rico were not processed correctly and that this could explain the delay, the CDC did not want to elaborate further. Neither the health department nor La Fortaleza responded to questions last night about whether they received any notice that the test had not been sent correctly. And there's another article that came out where the governor and the secretary of the health department here in Puerto Rico actually admitted to their mistakes. And that's another interesting story as well. In conclusion, it mentions here, in addition to the 3 confirmed cases, there are still 4 suspected cases on the island, apart from the 2 foreigners who were here at different times and tested positive when they were back in their countries. A 59-year-old Panamanian doctor and a 60-year-old Canadian tourist. Also, there are 6 other suspected cases at the Veterans Hospital, but they are handled by that entity on their own. So the case of this 59-year-old Panamanian, in my previous video, I mentioned he's actually a doctor, was feeling terrible. He was sick and decided to attend a concert with 25 to 30,000 people here in Puerto Rico and continued to hang around and mingle with people here in the island. He was feeling not good. Returns back to Panama. He's tested right off the plane. Confirmed coronavirus. So that's another situation that the government officials here in Puerto Rico are going to have to deal with. Uh, Besides that, multiple people are also known to have voluntarily been quarantined for being in places known to have been suspected of having these contagious or this Panamanian. So word has gone out. If you happen to be in any of these areas where he was at over the weekend, this past weekend, they should voluntarily quarantine uh, to protect others from being infected. So this is a breaking news, a lot to take in. So please be safe, and I thank you very much for watching this video. And again, if you haven't subscribed, I invite you to do so. Please like the video, and share. Feel free to share this video as well. Thanks again for your support, and thanks for watching Puerto Rico Headline News.